Okay, well, welcome guys to this week's roundtable discussion. We got a few different things that we've spotted on the web to discuss this week. So I'll let you get started, Charlie, with the first topic.
Okay, sounds good. So the first topic I want to talk about is I found an article on a site called domainnamewire.com wherein it discusses the sale of the top-level domain for .org, and it's being sold to Ethos Capital. And so what it basically means is that companies who want to begin a new website that ends in .org will be paying more for that in the near future. They're thinking that the price is going to rise about 10% a year as a result of the sale. What was really interesting about it was that the sale was for over $1 billion, and it looked like the estimate of how long it was going to take for them to recoup their money was a little over 5 years. And so I guess the reason I wanted to bring it up was just to kind of discuss sort of the ethics of the idea that somebody is buying and selling something so basic as the top level domain of like .org or .com, and just kind of get your guys' feel on whether or not you think that's something that should even be happening.
Right.
It was very controversial just because it wasn't widely publicized or discussed before it happened, and so a lot of people didn't even really know this is happening. A lot of nonprofits and other businesses are kind of up in arms about it, and so yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize that somebody could own the .org. I didn't know that was something that was owned. I mean, I know businesses, and in my own businesses, I've registered domain names, the entire name. But I didn't realize that. I didn't realize there was an owner of the .org. So I guess whoever owns, I guess that would mean there's an owner of the .com as well.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
All of .tv, sure. All those other extensions, right?
Yeah, .net.
And so, I mean, these folks get a cut of the fee every time so if we register a domain name with .org or .com, those people are getting a slice of the pie. Is
Definitely.
That what's happening?
Oh, that is correct.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't realize that. I mean, I thought I assumed the fee did. I assumed somebody owned some part of the network capacity, and the fee was going somewhere beyond the domain provider or whoever I was registering with. But I didn't know it was specific that somebody owned the .org.
Yeah, and it used to be owned by the thing called ISOC, which is the Internet Society, and so I think it was more in the lines of what you were imagining, which is that there's sort of either no one owns it or one centralized group owns it, but this is the first time it's going to pass hands between that and a privately held company.
And if I'm correct, I think this almost happened before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe this was a story, I want to say like 10 or 15 years ago.
Wow.
That the Internet Society took over .org because they were going to sell it to some venture capitalist or something that was going to use it. But then .org, I guess, is synonymous with like nonprofit organizations, and not saying that there's a bunch of spoof websites out there, but not necessarily everything with .org is a nonprofit. There are for-profits that use that .org name. But nonprofits are definitely upset. All the ones that I have talked to, are like really upset about.
Yeah, I mean, it adds to the controversy of this, right? Because it's like, because it is specifically the ending, the domain ending that's used for not-for-profits,
right?
So to have it bought by somebody who's basically trying to extract cash flows from it, yeah, you can see how that would.
Well, and the nonprofit space is kind of interesting from like an entrepreneurial or like a business point of view, because the tax changes that happened with the individual deductions or the itemized deductions that happened in the tax plan has really changed the way that nonprofits are receiving donations. It's done through like a donor advised fund now, through stocks are usually, and so now they're changing the way that they do their .orgs as well. Nonprofits are kind of been, they have to be more agile, I guess, these days in how they're finding funds, because it's not, you no longer have like a Schedule A person that itemizes really give. They still give, but they don't get a tax deduction usually now for it.
Well, it just goes to show you that every kind of business has its own set of problems, and that even when you think something is simple or stagnant, then things are still always changing in those industries too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wonder what kind of controls there are to prevent the owner of .org from just raising the rent, so to speak, on the use of .org. Because I
Right.
guess that's what it is. When we register a domain name, we're renting to some extent part of that.
a
from
lease with an
whoever
option to
owns.
buy.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. It's a good question. I doubt with current FCC rules, they've been so pro, I guess, marketplace where they're not viewing the internet, I guess, as a utility under the current
Right.
FCC. So I doubt and that's the only thing I can think of that would have governmental oversight over a .org. I don't know of any other government agency that would be able to step in and stop, or cap
Yeah.
what that cost would be.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder, I guess the other thing that comes to my mind is I wonder if, we've seen this, it seems like in the last couple of years, and I know there was some news about this, that there's been a lot of other stuff. So there's like a whole expanded list of the endings that your domain names can have now, right?
Yep.
And what's the control on that? Can anyone just create their own ending then and become a company that licenses it? Or
No, there definitely are. I'm not sure how they all got started or how they're formed, but there's definitely a finite list of them, and so it's not the case that you can go make .charlie or .
Ah,
It's,
all right.
They're
I
definitely.
think it has to be
set up.
limited to like a three characters. Is that correct? Or up to 3 characters? Because you have the .eu,
Yeah.
.az, like those, Australia is what, AU,
I can't think of a counter to that. I can think of 2s and 3s. I can't
but
think of
not
anything
4s.
longer. Yeah.
Because .tv, like Twitch.tv
Yeah.
is one. That was a hot one that was selling. They had radio ads for .tv domain names on Howard Stern when Howard Stern first went to Sirius.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they do advertising and sell like that, like a normal business.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a whole industry, and there's a lot to know about it.
And the way they talked about it is almost like an annuity. They pay a price to buy it, and then they expect to get a certain amount of cash back from it. So it's just, I guess it does depend on the volume of organizations using that domain, but they're dealing with big data here, so they kind of know on average what that's going to look like, and so they're just going to get a payback on their investment.
Yeah, it was saying that the current wholesale price of these .org domains is about $9.93, and that they expect that will probably double across the next 10 years as a result of this happening.
Oh.
And they talked a little bit about the cost structure and what it means for profitability, but of course the main takeaway is the price doubling in the next set of years.
I see. Wow. Well, yeah, and then that leads to the not-for-profits you were talking about being upset by this.
Yeah, 'cause $10. I think it's more like they've just felt slight. Like for a long time, donate, like revenue streams and kind of what their expenses were for nonprofits were pretty static. You had governmental income, you had donations, you had that's probably, the grants and donations and government, entitlement grants is what it's called, but really it's just governmental grants, donations as revenue sources, grants, private foundations. That's kind of shifted now, where your private donations come in as a donor advised fund, and investment. So you take part of your investment, and then that's how they're being advised to donate now for taxability purposes. So it's different, and the ones that are benefiting are agile enough to be able to recognize this and go after those donor advised funds and ask for them to be part of the list. But it is a reduction in their revenue stream, so it's changed, and I think this is a change to them. It's kind of been changing, so I think rolling with the punches is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to do that.